Let's just start. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Hi, friends. I am Sweta Kaushal, and today we are in conversation with writer filmmaker Tahira Kashyap. Hi.
Hi, Sweta.
So, Tahira, you're here with your new book, Seven Sins of Being a Mother. I read a few chapters, and I think most new moms in today's era would identify with what you've written, me being one of them. Uh, but what was the reaction of moms around you, your mom-in-law, or other moms that you know?
I still haven't, very honestly speaking, I still haven't made them read because they're going to hit the roof. I'm very sure, and I'm going to be disowned very, very soon enough. It's like you would have read, it's very blasphemous and very intimate. Um, but I'm just so glad that you could resonate with it, and it's actually got to do with how women as such are put into stereotypes, and they think each woman is a prototype of each other, and then when you become a mom, it's suddenly the box and the mold becomes smaller and closer, and then you expect it to be this holier than thou sort of a mother. This book is anything but a guide. There are no tips. I think I'm the last person to give any sane advice, as you would have figured it by now. But this is more to do with the kind of journey that I have had, and pretty sinful. And yeah, it's laced with humor, and I'm just so glad that you could resonate with it.
I think going against the norm is something that you've been doing for some time now. But you have touched a subject like sexual desire of a new lactating mom. We don't do that, not in India, not in the setup where you're talking about motherhood. How do you think your first chapter will be received?
I shall be kicked out of my house, like I told you. But I just hope it is well received because it's true, right? Like you don't just stop. Sorry, being direct and very explicit, but don't stop having sex. I mean to say, if you want to, you will indulge just because you become a mother or you're pregnant for that matter. It doesn't mean that you're not going to sleep on the same bed as your partner, and it's something that just it's just not age old traditions that come from a family. As in my chapter I've written, the doctor expected us to maintain distance and not have relations, which I could not understand for the longest time. What does relations mean? Because
That's what you call it.
he is my husband, I'm his wife, यही तो relationship है. And then she kept harping relations, and then I understood, oh, she's talking about sex. So but I asked her very directly that, is it biologically, physically, I'm fit enough, everything is fine? She's like, yeah, but it's just good to have holy pious thoughts and all of that. And I was just so surprised, it's not just coming from the family, it's coming from the doctor. So I think these are age old myths which I really wanted to address, and really it's happened to me, and I'm sure it's happened to a whole lot of mothers with
Almost everyone, I guess. That's how we
yeah,
talk. That's what we do.
yeah. So that.
Okay, do you want to talk about the role your kids have played in shaping how you look back at your journey, your struggles and small incidents that you talk about?
Yeah, totally. I think they have a very big role to play because I was not always born to be a mother. Very honestly speaking, it's a role that you're not exposed to. It's something that I have learned along the way as well. I need to say I was not always, um, again, it's sort of a thing which is expected, that suddenly when you become a mother you have this gamut of emotions coming, and you want to embrace your child and fall in love. I'm sure it happens, and it has happened with me, but over a period of time my instant reaction was, first, get this thing out of me, because it was 12 hours of excruciating labor which ended up in an emergency C-sec, like a cesarean. And then on top of that, my doctor's also waiting with the baby in her hands, waiting for me to, really embrace the child. And I could see two sets of eyes that are judging me: one, my child, and nowadays kids are born with open eyes, and one, my doctor. And both of them are just like staring at me. And I just could not bring myself to open my arms and embrace the child and smother him with my kisses. I was just amused. And the maximum that I could do was wriggle my nose against his. And then I told the doctor that take him to his family. And the doctor was shocked, what do you mean his family? He's come from you. But then I did feel like that. And if that's a sin, it is. But my love for my child, it grew with day by day and hour by hour. And it was just not love at first sight. And it as opposed to how it's expected of us to behave. So I guess the idea behind writing this book is also, and it's just not for mothers, even if it says 7 sins of being a mother. I think it's for everybody to enjoy and learn and experience, and for even men to know and understand that that's not how women function. So
So, how has that changed? You just mentioned how you were not really jumping on to embrace your child. How has it changed? Are you all like
yeah,
happy
yeah, no, no,
with
it's
that? And
completely changed. I
now,
am this. Yeah, yeah, no, I am very expressive. I'm very, as you would have figured it out by the books, I'm very, very expressive. So I have embarrassed my children in between their online classes. I go and I smother them and then just come out. So of course, it's drastically changed. I was 28 or 29 when I had my first kid, and I considered myself fairly young. But it's again, it's not. I didn't know what it is to be like a mother. So those feelings just didn't automatically come to me. And I'm just so glad that I was not pretentious about it. I was not succumbing under pressure to behave a certain way and a certain type. I took my time, but of course, it's the most beautiful, beautiful feeling and very, very gratifying. And I'm quite an embarrassing mother for my kids, I've realized.
after an age, I guess every mom is. All parents are, I think.
Yeah, yeah, totally, totally.
So,
How old is your
they're three. I have twins.
Wow, you're a rock star, man. So you had twins and then the third one, or the first and then the twins?
No, I only have two twins. I'm not taking a
Oh,
second thought.
no, but you said you have three kids.
No, they are 3 years old.
Oh, I saw like, wow, you have three kids. I was like, wow. So, oh my God, twins. Listen, that's another story in itself.
It's crazy.
Everything twice over, I'm sure.
Yeah, you have no clue. I think it's after 3 or 4 years that I actually read a book and did not quit midway. Whatever portion I had, I read it through and through, and it was your book.
So sweet. Thank you so much.
Maybe
Means so
because
much.
I am in that stage. I'm sure
Yeah,
it has a lot to do.
so sweet. Thank you so much. थोड़ा सा क्रेडिट मुझे भी दे दो कि अच्छा लिखा है.
The way
No,
you
but I'm just so
it
glad.
made it much more
No, but
appealing.
I'm just so glad you read the book, and yeah, thank you.
So, we know, and you've also mentioned in the book, guilt trips are part of being a mom. And do you want to talk about moments where you knew doing something or not doing something would be a major, major guilt trip, but you are super proud that you still went ahead and did that thing or did not do that thing, whatever it was?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was forever on this guilt trip. Always, I think the fact that I had a cesarean and not a normal. So vaginal is considered to be normal, and I don't even understand why is that. Why do we think that's the normal way? The rest of the women who've had a cesarean, how are they lesser mortals? But it was, of course, it did not come directly from my family, but I could see the society and the uncles and the aunts who were coming to congratulate, and they would say, oh, cesarean ho gaya, chalo koi nahi. And I was like, chalo koi nahi ka matlab, I'm very happy it's happened this way. But so I was guilty at that point of time. I was like, oh no, so now I have to redeem myself and I have to show the world that I deserve the medal of being the perfect mother, and I have lost that opportunity in not giving a normal birth. So then I was like, I'm going to take care of my kids completely. I did not let anybody even wash their diapers, everything on my own. And I was guilty about it all the time. Then I had gained 20 kilos. I was guilty about being overweight. Then when I took 40 minutes out of the entire day schedule to gym, I used to feel guilty about that too. When the milk production was less, I was not, it did not fill the baby. I was guilty about that. If I took a top feed, I was guilty. And it's just not about being a mother. I just think if you are a woman or identify as one, suddenly in the patriarchal setup that we are in, we I don't know why we answerable to everyone, and we feel, and everybody has the right to question us. And so this does not just extend to the moms, but it's actually to do with us in general. And so we're perpetually on a guilt trip. And yeah, these are some of the incidents where I felt very, very guilty. And but now, I also forgot my child in a restaurant. The chapter you must have read. I didn't forget to take my bag and I didn't forget to pay the bill, but I forgot the child in the restaurant. The waiter had to come running, stop me in the elevator and tell me, "Madam, you've forgotten your baby." I was just so embarrassed, and there were people in the lift looking at me, and I just didn't know where to look. But I have done all of that. I'm guilty of it. I've actually dropped my kids to school on a public holiday, and I have come back home with my kids cursing me for waking them up at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I've done all of that, and I don't think these blunders they cease to happen. I'm continuing on the path of committing blunders one after the other, but today I'm more forgiving towards myself. Earlier on, I used to take it too seriously. I mean to say, even during my health issue, my mom took over and she would give the tiffin, and I used to be worried. कि, "अरे यार, she's given cheese sandwiches on 2 days. How unhealthy." And now I think of it, how does it even matter? I learned how to let go very recently in life, and I'm happier this way.
That is a tough lesson, I'm sure. So, you've earlier mentioned that you share your drafts with your husband. How much has Ayushmann Khurrana contributed to the final draft of this book?
He was just in horror. He was mortified and he was shocked, and he laughed at some places, and more often than not, because it was him also in the book, he was mortified. He was like, "Are you sure you're going to write this?" And I was like, "Yeah, this is my book and this is me, and this is how it's going." And the idea behind sharing it with him was not for him to give me some sort of a permission, because this is my life too, but it was with the sense of, since both of us have the love for art and writing and cinema, it was more to do with giving some constructive criticism, the flow of the chapters or how it's getting along. It was more to do with that. But I think I have really, really mortified him and embarrassed him. And I think he knows that he has no other option but to live up with this creature.
You also mentioned how you would often feel jealous of him for his lack of guilt in this
Oh
parenthood.
yeah, I think that's, it's just not him, it's just men. Men in general are so no, you would be able to tell me about your husband also. If he has to do his piece of work, he will not be bothered about the 3-year-old's food and tiffin and khana. I don't know, it's but this perpetual guilt is on my head, and I, yes, I have felt this pang of jealousy where the 10 minutes break that I take for myself, and that 10 minutes, it's all clouded with what my children are doing. And this man, he comes, he has the most joyous time with the kids, and then he leaves for work. And but there was a lesson or two for me to learn as well, right? That I can also enjoy, but which I learned later on, I did not enjoy before because I was always on work mode, always on accomplishing things and trying to prove a point to I don't know whom यार, मतलब किसको point prove कर लिया मैंने कि 7 months मैंने breastfeed किया, 6 months किया या 1 year है, I don't know कौन सी report card में लिखा जाएगा. What was I doing? But I know that a lot of women take that pressure. And my intention behind telling this is there is no point in taking that pressure. So do what appeases you the best.
We need a lot of that. I'm sure we also need a lot of time before we can actually overcome. But yes, your
The fact that we're
effort
talking about
definitely
it,
counts.
it's a big achievement in itself.
True,
Yeah, but we have a long way to go. Definitely. I
true.
agree.
So, as a person, you have talked about things that a woman doesn't talk about in our society. A star wife wouldn't talk about in the industry that you part belong to, now that you're also a filmmaker. So, how do you think you overcome the fears of talking about things that no one around you really does?
You know, I've learned one thing and I read it somewhere and it made a lot of sense to me. It says that take your work seriously, but don't take yourself seriously. And that's something that I live by. And I genuinely don't know what does star wife even mean. Matlab, qualification kya hai? Where is the textbook? Where are the guidelines? Where is the syllabus that you have to read and you have to clear the test and exam to become a star wife? I don't know what that is.
The same way
Clearly,
say you have these dates of being a woman, a mom. So, star wife, a star.
I know. I think I have clearly failed to the living to those expectations of this term. But what I have succeeded is in being happy in myself. Like I said, I admit I was leading a pretentious life in my 20s, and that it just did not give me any happiness, any solace. I was completely disconnected from my truest self. And now this is my truest self. This is the truest version of myself, where I get to be and I get to express my thoughts, my feelings, my stories through different mediums, whether it's short stories or films or books. I'm just so happy to be in this space. Yeah. So no, I don't take any pressures because I don't feel the pressure. I mean to say, I don't need to live up to anybody's expectation, and that's really helped me a lot. um, there was a time where I wanted to be a certain type and a certain form and a certain body structure, and that so took a toll on my physical and mental well-being, and I was so disconnected that I just don't want to go to that space anymore, and I really want to cherish my own unique individuality like each one of us has. And we don't need to be we certainly should get inspired by each other, but we don't necessarily need to be a replica of each other. I truly don't take any pressure of that.
True. Do you want to talk about that journey of transition from trying to be what everyone else wants you to be to not really caring about them?
It was a long journey. It was a very, very long, arduous journey. I think I was unhappy for 10 years of my life or even more. And I was trying to be something that I wasn't, or just taking pressures of the world. Whereas I don't think the world care a shit about me, but but in my head, I had to be a certain size, look a certain way, behave a certain way, talk a certain way, and nobody has given me that pressure. Huh? Nobody told me like it's not my partner or my parents or somebody told me that. It was just looking at the world around, it just looking at the world around, and then the new fads that were coming in, and I just it wasn't taking me anywhere. And then it was just not that, it was not able to figure out the mission of my life, the what I'm passionate about. And I've always been passionate about writing and theater, but somehow I was so delusional. The clouds of lacking faith in myself had really taken over my sensibilities, and I had no faith and trust in myself. I was very, very harsh towards myself and never appreciated anything about myself. And so it took about 10 years, and it had implications on my physical and mental well-being, like I told you. And then I was actually at the tip of the iceberg, and I was pretty much, it was downhill for me. And that's when I came across a wonderful philosophy. It's called Nichiren's Buddhism. And that completely transformed and changed the way I look at things. I stopped feeling like a victim anymore. I stopped blaming people, circumstances, everything for who I am and what I am. I suddenly took charge of my life, and I felt that I'm a main stage hero. I took the ownership of my life, and I felt very liberated and very empowered. And that was the most transforming part of my life. I just, it was complete flip, and I have only this practice to give credit to, and ever since then it has been a journey of evolution. So yeah.
That's beautiful.
Mhm.
So, do you want to talk about your feature film, Sharma Ji Ki Beti? What is it about?
Ah, so I really think it requires a whole devoted time to it, because that was a story and a struggle in itself. The only thing that I can share right now is that it has been something which has been closest to my heart. And I got to film it, I got to make it this year. I'm just very kicked about that. But more about that maybe someday later.
All right. Uh, okay, so I read your commandments on being a woman, and now Seven Sins of a Mother. Your short films, Pinny, Toffee, they're all basically intricate personal struggles that women and girls face. So, your public works that have been around, are majorly about taking on patriarchy. What are you going to do next?
I think I'm obsessed with them, and you're very very right. And I just feel very less has been told about them, and whatever has been told in little amounts is just very very stereotypical. And but I also want to share that we are equally complex and equally endearing and equally interesting and equally villainous. If I'm allowed to say, I'm equally dark. I mean, to say there's so much to us that it needs to be explored. So I think I'm going to continue telling stories. And I'm a storyteller, of course. I would love to tell stories of men too. But somehow I don't know what, I'm obsessed with women. It just happens organically. I choose to write, and somehow I'm gravitated towards more about women and their stories of liberation. But the only difference is the voice in which I tell and I film and I direct or I write is laced with a lot of humor. So that's been my voice. And yeah.